All right, let's get started. I want to introduce our first speaker and somebody that I deeply respect and love, both a colleague and a friend, Dr. Veronica Boyer. She provides for Changing Lives Incorporated companies, some medical evaluations, as well as integrative support for our clients who participate in ketamine assisted psychotherapy. She's very well rounded from science to being able to dive in emotionally and help our clients process some deep things or even just resets. And I am excited that she is part of our team. I love this woman, Dr. Veronica Boyer.
Thank you. So yeah, when you introduce me like that, I'm like, who are you talking about? But thank you. That's really sweet. I appreciate that. So it was kind of funny when Shannon asked, we usually reach out and talk about who's gonna speak and what parts we're gonna take. And when she said Dr. Boyer's gonna do segment one, and then she says, and in the little email, she's like, you'll see why. And then I started to read this and I was like, yeah, this is a pretty big passion of mine. And self-compassion has been a big thing for me, especially this year. It's become a big part of my life, and I didn't understand that earlier this year. So I am very excited to talk about this. Self-compassion is kind of funny. I took a poll this morning, an N of one, if you will, and I asked this person, what is self-compassion? Well, I don't know. I'm like, come on, how are you compassionate with yourself? And this person was like, I'm like, how do you give yourself self-compassion? And they're like, attention. I'm like, so you're going to give yourself attention. If your feelings are hurt, you're going to give yourself attention. And they were like, well, I said, okay, let's talk about what self-compassion isn't. That's the easiest way to understand. It isn't self-judgment. So with that said, like self-compassion is internal kindness. And one of the ways I like to think about this is our inner child. We have this little 6, 7, or 8-year-old living within us. And how many of us drop something on the floor, it breaks or it spills, and you're like, God, you idiot. I do it. I did it. I used to call myself names, and I would think about if I had a little 7-year-old that dropped this in front of me, would I call them those names? That's self-compassion. This one is kind of tricky. Treating oneself with the same grace offered to others. And that's what I'm talking about. Like if my friend tripped and fell, first I'd laugh and I'd be like, oh my God, are you okay? Right? Schadenfreude, let's be honest. But I'd be like, oh my God, are you okay? And then help them do whatever I could. But there's also that golden rule, which I think is not correct. The golden rule says treat people as you would treat yourself. And I don't think that that's true. It's treat others as they would like to be treated. Because some people like hugs. Some people don't touch me. Some people just need to be heard, right? So if we treat people the way that we want to be treated, we may be doing a disservice. So anyways, self-compassion, compassion for others, okay? When we have internal kindness, it reduces that self-criticism and it builds emotional resilience. I was at a conference or a workshop last week, which was pretty amazing. And the first 2 days, it was on relationships, but the first 2 days were all about loving ourselves first. Because if we can't love ourselves and we don't have that capacity to fill our own selves, we can't love anybody else because we don't understand ourselves. And I realized even last week, we did an exercise and it was about the love languages. And they brought up, how do you want to be loved, right? We know the 5 love languages: acts of service, gifts, physical touch, words of affirmation, and quality time. So mine, I actually took the test, and mine are 1 point apart: words of affirmation, then physical touch. Well, then they turned it around. I'm like, I know mine. And they said, okay, great. Now what are your love languages? I'm like, I just told you my love languages. They said, no. How do you love yourself? What the heck? I actually had to think about how I care for myself. When I realized that, and that how much I give that to myself, and then a couple things happened last week, and I gave those words, I gave myself words of affirmation. That was my love language to myself. And quality time was for myself. When I realized I did that, when stuff went sideways last week, I went into quality time for myself and my words of affirmation, and I had emotional resilience. So whatever happened that week at work, I'm not in prison. Anyways, so it does create emotional resilience when you do have in that internal kindness. Emotional accountability, owning feelings and responses instead of projecting blame. So all of my patients at work know that I have an assistant in the Philippines, and she sits in a little corner of my computer all day long. Whenever they're like, I ask them, hey, did you get this? Oh my God, no, I didn't get that. I'm like, that's Joanne's fault. And they're like, Dr. Boyer, I go, I blame her for everything, but it truly was my fault. And they all know that. And I will take accountability because it's my fault. But I just joke with Joanne. I'm like, I'm just going to throw it off on her because I don't want the blame. But I take blame. I take responsibility for stuff that I miss, and I miss it all the time. And I think my patients realize that. They are grateful for that because I'm only human, and I'm so overwhelmed oftentimes that I do forget stuff. And it's like, I am taking accountability. I'm sorry. And I think, like this says, it builds trust and integrity in relationships. When you can walk up to somebody and somebody's yelling at you, you're like, you're right. I had a tone, or yes, I was mean and I'm sorry. Not only does it help calm the relationship, but it gives you that opportunity to talk. And then, which leads right into this next one, fueling growth, not just sustainable leadership, but also partnership. So, what I'd like to do next is take you through a grounding exercise if that's okay with you. We'll take 3 to 5 minutes, and we're going to go through just a couple of resets. So I'm going to take you through a quick breathing exercise, take you through a quick somatic exercise, and then we're just going to relax, and then we'll go for an intention. We'll kind of talk about that and then kind of go forward. So what I'd like you to do is just kind of get comfortable. And then I invite you to close your eyes. And if you don't want to close your eyes, I invite you to just soften your gaze, kind of look forward, just kind of take a couple deep breaths. And I want you to feel the chair that you're sitting in. I'm feeling some bones on the little chair, feel your feet on the floor. And I want you to listen, what's going on around us. Hear the AC, hear the cars outside, you hear your heart beating. What I want you to do is take a big deep inhaling all the way up, big, big, big deep breath. And I want you to hold it 7 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Inhale. And another big deep breath in, all the way up, 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 and hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and out. I'm gonna do one more just like that. Now inhale, all the way up, up, and hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it out. And give yourself a little shake. See where you're at. All right, what I want you to think about right now is just here, now, not doing stuff all day. Come back here, give yourself back this space. All that you've done today is out there. Everything you're going to do right now, we're here, present. There's nowhere to be, nothing. So when you're ready, I want you to slowly open your eyes. How y'all feeling? Little reset? Kind of good? Do you like the shake? My favorite. Um, so I'm going to kind of take just a quick little tangent. This is another uh, poll for the N of one. Now, I've been doing this work for a while. My degree is in psychology, but that degree came back in the 90s. How many here knows exactly what embodiment means? Hands, please. Who knows what embodiment means? Okay, thank you. I don't get it. I had to look it up. Like, I hear it all the time, and this is a big part of our work. But embodiment, it means that we take our what's in our brain and what's in our body and we actually pull it together. Like, you can have courage but not be courageous, right? So this is kind of the same thing. So what I'd like you to do is, with that definition, is kind of think about an intention that you want to do, like what you want to get from today. We know we're talking about self compassion, kind of went over some of those. Did anything sound good to you? And if that is, that's going to be your word, kind of, or like a phrase, like, okay, this is for me. I want to learn what my love languages are. How do I love myself? How can I be good with myself? My my thing for this week to embody is honesty, responsibility. So, what is self compassion? It is the act of practicing, or is a practice of treating yourself with kindness and understanding that when you suffer, fail, feel inadequate, it's being kind, right? And neuroscience shows that it engages the brain system, links to things like empathy, regulation, and reward. And we'll get into the science nerdy part of it in just a little bit because it does trigger dopamine. The the psychology definition of it means responding to your own pain with warmth instead of self-criticism. And I kind of jumped into that earlier. Like, instead of beating yourself up and calling yourself names, I catch myself. I'll talk about myself. So, was it the other day I got into my car and I hit my head? Klutz, dumbass. Like, there's all these things that came into it. It's like, no, that's not my fault. I was tired. I didn't duck. I had my ponytail in. I just hit my head. It doesn't mean anything about me. So, no more harsh self criticism. I had a bad day at work. It doesn't say anything about me. I just said I wasn't emotionally regulated that day to handle the stuff that came flying at me when the poop got put in front of the fan. Right. So, Kristen Neff. So, this is really interesting. She says self kindness is being gentle rather than judgmental. I mean, that makes sense. You're hearing me say the same thing over and over. Well, I looked her up this morning and she's pretty cool. I actually took the quiz and I paid the $2 to get my information. And as I was reading it, I forgot the words, but I was like, oh, well, of course they asked you questions. And I was like, oh my God, that's me. Yes. And it was, so if you can look her up and take the quiz, and it is $1.95 to get the results. Totally worth $1.95. And then if you sign up, that takes you to her website. And then there's like an IQ quiz, there's an empathy quiz, there's like all kinds of stuff on there. So this morning I was actually, I don't know why I did this, but I actually took the IQ quiz this morning. I don't think I was awake. I got above average, but I got higher than Oprah, but I don't think I was awake. Or maybe it just was true. Anyways, so here, self-compassion, right? I'm okay. But she's really cool. And she wrote a couple books called Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself. And I gotta say, it is extremely powerful. She wrote another book called Fierce Self-Compassion. Women harness kindness to speak up, claim their power, and thrive. And she actually has a program called Mindful Self Compassion. And I didn't know any of this was out there. And I just kind of did this on my own. And um, talking to my inner child, that little 7-year old, um, practically every day since, I want to say, March, has definitely, like, those of you that know me can see it. My patients have seen a big shift in just the way that I am, even with them. in my relationships. Even my mom noticed it. My parents have come up twice this year, and yeah, everybody's been asking me what I'm doing different. So that's just been all about self-compassion. So, okay, now we get into the stuff and the science stuff. So the brain regions that are activated when we are self-compassionate, the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula. So in the brain, we have this frontal cortex, and this part is just right behind it. And what it's in both of these, the ACC and the insula, are involved in empathy and emotional awareness. They this is kind of like they take the heartbeat or the gut feeling and they actually translate it into emotional awareness. They let's see if I can read my notes here. This is the brain's conflict monitor. It I really need to write bigger. Cognition, decision making, error detection, this is pain perception. This is what helps us with motivations, the value of our effort. Like, how is this going to pay off? I'm training. I go to the gym every morning. How does this pay off? Um, I study. How is this going to pay off? That's what this part of the brain does. So it's the value of the effort and the motivation toward the goals, right? The prefrontal cortex supports regulation of negative emotions and perspective taking. So we always say, oh, the reason they did that is their prefrontal cortex hasn't been developed yet. They're not 25. It happens after 25. So this is also the part of planning, prioritizing, and decision making. So yeah, our decisions are kind of done before 25. At least mine were. The reward circuits, the ventral striatum, which is in the middle, kind of helps with the cross. The primary neurotransmitter is dopamine. Now I know a lot of people hear dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. That is our pleasure reward center, right? That's when we take a drink, when we win, when are successful, that gives us that dopamine hit. And so we're constantly looking for it. Um, we always think like our reward centers. What gives us these rewards? What gives us that dopamine hit? Eating can do it. Uh, Winning something, a warm blanket. So the mechanism of self compassion shifts the brain from a threat mode, which is our reptile brain, this reaction, this part of the brain that keeps us alive, to to caring mode, soothing mode, this oxytocin release, which is really cool. And the workshop that I was in, we talked about oxytocin quite a bit. And I had to look this up because oxytocin is usually associated with physical touch or another person. And I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't around family. Have a patient just recently that is pretty much by herself, no family. So how does she get oxytocin, right? So I had to look this up. And when I did a deep dive, it's still about hugs. It's still about physical touch. And like I just said, yeah, there's eating, but you can only eat so much before it becomes an obsession, right? So a warm blanket can do this. Having pets will release oxytocin. And one of my favorites is actually a weighted blanket. And then mine is a weighted heated blanket, which is even better. I think mine's 15 pounds. But anyways, so I just wanted to share those couple things with you. One of my other ones, and I love this one. I think we've done this before, is just like a 3-minute eye gaze. Just looking at your friend, sitting across from a friend and just looking at them. Usually within 15 to 30 seconds, your breathing syncs up. And when your breathing syncs up, then that's when the oxytocin releases. Has anybody heard of the 8-second hug? So Again, N of one, I wanted to do this 8-second hug. And it was like, oh, yeah, it doesn't work. Like, okay. So I think there's two ways to do this. Okay. You can give somebody a hug 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, thanks. No, that's not going to work. There's another way to do an 8-second hug. And I learned this last week where I actually felt it. And I was like, it was mind blowing, the change in the 8-second hug with somebody. You give them a look in their eyes, reach around, you give them a hug, you breathe together and just stay there. And I heard the word, hold on until you melt. And I was in the middle of this hug, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, I felt it. So give it a try. Find your partner, a loved one, and just do that hug, and you will. You'll feel that melt. And it's just like you take another deep breath, and then you don't just let go. You slowly pull away from each other because you're in their energy space. And if you just step back, it's a shock to the system. Whereas if you stay connected and slowly move back, then you're slowly leaving that space and that oxytocin is still going. Anyways, I think that's the end of my segment. Thank you.
That was awesome, better than I expected. I love it. I learned something new, and I love that too. I like the whole oxytocin and even how you talked about the self-care and how to apply it to yourself and the love language. That was awesome. Thank you. Okay. I have the good fortune and privilege of introducing our next speaker, who has been a very special person to me for how long? How long have I known you? 53 years. My sister. It's an honor to introduce my sister, Jodi Stephenson, as our next speaker. She is the president of Inside Out for Everyone Montana chapter that we are launching actively. However, we're still mostly here trying to move into Montana and do some similar things that we're doing here. She has gotten some coaching certificates to be part of the coaching process, some trauma informed certificates, as well as a few others because she's actively interested in the mental health care realm as the other people that are here representing us today. I'm super excited she's here today from Montana. Come on up. There's a
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here today. So, my sister, probably, I think this week, said to me, hey, you're going to be in town and we're doing this little thing at a brewery, and I'd like you to present a segment. And I went, I haven't done that in front of anybody in a long time. I don't know if I'm prepared for that. So, to be perfectly honest, I think this was a good topic because I heard all the voices, all of the things that we tell ourselves and go, I don't think you're smart enough to do this, Jodi. And I don't think you have the courage to do this, Jodi. And all those voices that I think we all hear and that we all say to ourselves. And I had to say, you got this. You're okay. It's going to be fine. And of course, my sister says, it's a casual environment. It's good. So, just to add to what Dr. Boyer talked about, we're talking about why does self-compassion matter? And so there's a lot of reasons that it matters. And I think we'll start with the first thing is it reduces individual suffering. Every one of us experiences failure, loss, imperfection, and we're our biggest critiquers of those things. Self compassion helps people cope with suffering without spiraling into shame or isolation, and it lowers our rates of anxiety and depression. And I think we all know people that our friends, our family that suffer with that self loathing and what they say to themselves. But when you connect with them and you start having a conversation with them and they realize they're not alone, they're not the only person who feels that way. I think that's what helps other people. We realize we're not alone, we're not isolated. So I think it's really important to be there as friends, as family, as sisters, as all of those things. Having self-compassion builds resilience. So research shows that self-compassion is one of the most powerful sources of coping and resilience. Instead of being paralyzed by mistakes, people learn from them and they stay motivated to grow. So I think we can all probably relate to that. It strengthens social connection. It emphasizes common humanity as a struggle in all of us. And it reduces judgment by others and increases empathy, creating stronger communities. So it promotes sustainable change. So harsh criticism often backfires, leading to avoidance and burnout. And self compassion motivates change through care rather than fear, making personal and societal progress more sustainable. I don't know if any of you have ever been in an interview process in the last few years. I've changed some jobs, and I always find it interesting because one of the questions they almost always ask you is, tell me about your strength, tell me about your weakness or your failure. And this has legitimately been my response. I have never, ever looked at a mistake as a failure. I truly have always felt like mistakes are how we grow. It's how we learn. So if you change your mindset on instead of looking at a mistake as a failure, we're not failing if we learn from something. We're growing and we're learning from it. And so I think it's really important to kind of shift our thought process on things. So, one of the other things is on a societal level, widespread self compassion can reduce stigma around mental health, encourage healthier workplaces, and foster cultures of kindness. It shifts focus from perfectionism and competition to collaborative and shared growth. And I think that's huge. So, especially, you hear so often in our society, like, I'm a girl's girl or I'm in this. Well, I am. Like, I support my friends, my family, I support women. And it's not just women, like we should support each other as humans. We should be there for each other and encourage each other. And I do think that it would help the mental health crisis in our country if we were more focused on accepting what people are going through and empathizing with them so they knew they weren't isolated and alone. So self compassion activates brain regions tied to empathy and regulation, and it calms the amygdala's threat response, lowering stress hormones like cortisol. Shift supports healthier decision making and emotional balance, which benefits both individuals and communities. And just to kind of finish that, Shannon and I were having a conversation, I think yesterday, and we were talking about what we tell ourselves. It was something I had recently watched a video on, and I said, "Hey, we got to learn to stop telling ourselves things like so simple you don't think about it." But I frequently will go, "I have anxiety." Well, guess what happens when I tell myself I have anxiety? Now I have anxiety. So instead of putting those negative things or just owning that, and I'm not saying I don't, because I do, but instead of saying I have anxiety, it's like you mentioned, owning like what the feeling is. So I'm feeling stressed from my day today. And that's a legitimate thing. Like we can feel stressed or we can feel sad because we lost a loved one. But if we go, I'm just so depressed. I just need to go jump off a bridge. Like we need to bring it in and actually own that emotion as opposed to saying I'm this or I'm that. And so that's what I would just encourage everybody this week with kind of my epiphany with my sister was we really have to work on this and it's a habit that we have to break because we get in these habits. But I would just encourage you all to show yourself that self-compassion and find other ways to describe yourself instead of wrapping it around something that you may or may not actually be that a feeling. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I appreciate you all letting me talk to you today, and we will let my sister come back up.
Thank you, Jojo. Becky. Thank you. Okay. we're not going to stop there. We have a final speaker who is the incredible Amanda Mackoy. She is our pharmacist who brings so much heart, commitment to these creative spaces. But even more importantly, I asked her to be on the board of Inside Out for Everyone this year as the Women's Health Initiative gal that's that supports our women in this environment, in this community. And she does a great job. She's taken people to retreats and taken people out on the town to try and relax. Gosh, that is awesome. And we love her for this. She is going to speak on segment 3 and wrap it up for us on self-compassion. Amanda, let's hear your heart.
Thanks, Shannon. Hey, hello, everyone. You guys have some homework today. Sorry, not sorry. Grab your little piece of paper. Let's see if you've got a pen somewhere. So I'm going to talk about self-compassion and how we can integrate it into real life. Basically, how self-compassion shows up in your real life when it matters. I mean, we could talk about it all day, but what do you do with this information? It's not just a mindset. These are things that you want to do every day to make a practice, to use your tools, use these tools to just make a better life. That's what I would call it. And these are all evidence-based concepts. First would be to practice self-kindness. We talked about this a little bit already. And Dr. Boyer was talking about the negative self-talk. That's so huge. And the first thing that I think of is Chris Farley in the 1990s Saturday Night Live, where he would have his little show and he would interview people and he would ask a question that he felt was dumb and immediately he would go, idiot, yeah, stupid. He would hit himself. And that is the epitome of negative self-talk. It might not be as, pronounced as that, but how many of you right now sit in this room, just think for a second of the thing that you tell yourself that's negative when you mess up something. Everybody's got something. It immediately pops up. Stupid. Why would I do that? So the first step is to take that and recognize that you do it and soften it so that you can still give yourself some criticism, but stop it before it becomes harsh. Stop it before it becomes harsh. So where it's so negative. Would you talk to someone like that as a friend? You said like a 10-year-old. Would you tell your friend that? Would you speak to your friend that way and say, God, you're an idiot? Or why did you do that? Or you always do that. Oh, you're so dumb. You wouldn't speak to another human being that way. So don't speak to yourself that way. So this is the first point is practice the self-kindness. Speak to yourself as if you were a friend or a child or someone that you cared about. You're trying to help. Some examples might be instead of saying, I'm such a failure, you could replace that with something like, I made a mistake. I will learn from this. I've learned a little bit of a little handy phrase from my 5-year-old who in school, when they make a mistake, their teacher taught them to say, it's okay, it happens. And that has been so helpful. Just that little statement, it's okay, it happens. Recognizing common humanity. Part of being human is not being perfect. Spoiler alert, we're not perfect. No one's perfect. Everyone struggles. No one is perfect. So when you feel like you're struggling, you are absolutely not alone. It is literally part of being human. So that's something you can tell yourself is everyone struggles sometimes. I am not alone in this. I am not alone is a huge one for me. I like to tell myself that one. I'm not alone. Other people struggle with this. And I do this a lot with my moms because a lot of times we feel like as new parents, we're on an island and we're freaking out and everyone's a better mom than us, et cetera, et cetera. You can translate that into any other situation, but just reminding each other like, oh, I'm also dealing with this. And this also comes back to community, the importance of community, because when you share your struggles and other people share their struggles with you, then you learn, oh, I am not alone in this. I've been dealing with this too. So the importance of community comes back again a lot for me. All right, so the pop quiz time. Turn your little pages over if you haven't done to it yet, where it says, I think self-reflection. First self-reflection question. What is one thought you've been hard on yourself about lately? And how can you speak to yourself more kindly right now? I want you to think about something you've been hard on yourself with, and then write down how you would tell yourself more kindly, whatever that is. I get a beer break while you guys are doing this. All right. Second part of self compassion, using mindfulness. So we often think of mindfulness as meditation, things like that, yoga, other breathwork practices, but it can be just as simple as noticing and recognizing the emotion that you're feeling at the time, giving it a name. I found this very helpful. So give it a name instead of resisting it. You might be feeling anger, sadness, fear, pain, any of these things. That's part of being human, feeling emotions, feeling these things. Give it a name and say, okay, this is a moment of pain, anger, sadness, fear. Let me breathe and acknowledge it, because just ignoring it isn't going to make it go away. It's not going to help you in any way. You just need to acknowledge that it exists, recognize that it helps you as a human being, that these things are there to help protect us. That doesn't mean that they have to overwhelm us. So breathe and acknowledge it. This is a moment of pain, fear, sadness, anger. Let me breathe and acknowledge it. And then once you've done that, you can move on to offering yourself some self-care. So this doesn't have to be some grand gesture. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm going to take 10 days off and go to Jamaica, which, I mean, that's fantastic self-care. But it doesn't have to be those things. It can be lots of small intentional acts of kindness towards yourself. So that might be saying something nice to yourself. That's a really good start. But if you're not sure what to do, there's a really helpful thing that I found that kind of gives you some ideas, like an almost like an icebreaker for what you can do for yourself. So if you flip your page over, elemental self-care practices. So this means taking the elements, earth, fire, wind, water. Pick something in there that sounds good to you, like what is speaking to you at this time. Some examples might be earth. Go outside. Go for a walk. Get out into nature. Touch a tree. Take your shoes off. Put your feet in the grass. Don't do it at night when the scorpions are out in the yard. Don't do that. But get outside and put your feet in the grass. Maybe water your plants. Get out and do some gardening. It gets you attached to the earth, back to the earth. Fire, things like lighting a candle, but lighting it with intention. Taking a moment to do a bit of that ceremonial lighting of a candle. Doing any kind of movement that builds up heat in your body. So maybe going for a walk or exercising. Moving your body, just moving your body, even if you just moved a little bit around the house. That builds that, what we would call the fire. That would be like the fire element. Also, I like this one, listening to music that makes you feel bold or alive. You know, whatever song like gets you going. Wind, some examples of wind might be breath work. Like that seems pretty obvious one. Deep breaths with like a deep inhale, like we did earlier. Also, sometimes just sitting where you're at and literally feeling the air around you. This is particularly good outdoors, but it can be done indoors as well. And then getting outside for some fresh air. It kind of goes a little bit along with earth, but then you get two elements for one. And then water. Get a glass of cold water, drink it intentionally, drink the whole thing. Maybe make some hot tea. That's also like the opposite, the hot and the cold, but you're still getting the water in. Take a shower, soak in a tub, take a bath. And crying crying, that is the water element, still is there, but crying without judgment. So don't judge yourself. Just let it go. It's okay. And then I found this one interesting. I was looking some of these ideas up and applying lotion or oil. I thought that was very interesting. Just taking the time to hydrate your external body, especially since we live in the desert. Just taking the time to do that, but doing it in a thoughtful nature is doing all of these things in a thoughtful nature is very important. So those are some ideas for things that you can do, those little mini self-care things that can come back to help you ground again. Just little treats for yourself. And I just want to remind everyone that it's small intentional acts that make the difference and that self-care is not earned. Who does that speak to? You don't have to earn self-care. You don't have to have done something good in order to do something good for yourself. You deserve it regardless. That one really spoke to me. Your reflection for this one is, what emotion are you noticing in your body right now? Right now. And how can you allow it to be there without trying to change it or fix it? This is the acknowledgement of an emotion without changing it or fixing it. Okay. Another good tip is creating a compassionate ritual. My notes say write a letter to yourself as if you were your best friend. For me, I'm lazy. I don't really want to write letters and journal. I'm bad with that. But post-it notes. I love some sticky post-it notes. So I like to write little post-it notes that say things that I would say to a friend. You can do it. You're doing great. Be kind to yourself. I can find peace. I can accept who I am. That's a hard one. I can accept who I am. That's hard, but it's good to have up. The one I have right now on my mirror in my bathroom is I walk on. So remember to write that. Like I said, I want to reiterate this because it's so important. Write it as if you are writing it to a friend, and then don't feel guilty about it. You can say nice things to yourself. It's not egomaniacal. Seek support without shame. You can seek support in many different ways. You can ask help from your friends, your family, mentors, or professionals. Got lots of professionals in here who can help guide you to where you need to be. Reaching out is not a weakness. It's actually a strength because it is really hard to ask for help sometimes. And when you think about that, you realize it's harder to ask for help than not to. It truly is. This kind of comes back to the idea of community. And as human beings, we are social animals. We need the social interaction. And when you talk to other people, like I said earlier, if you talk to other people about what you're going through and then they share what they're going through, you get that sense of community. You recognize that it's shared humanity and you don't have to carry that burden all on your own. It can be shared. So your reflection, back to your homework, everybody. If you were writing yourself a letter from a place of love, what is one sentence you need to hear today? I think I need to do this homework too. Do as I say, yes, and not as I do. Okay, so some key takeaways for today. A little bit of reiteration. One of my favorite words, reiteration. Treat yourself like a friend. When you stumble, respond with encouragement or curiosity instead of criticism. Ask maybe, why did I do that? Or understand the reasons. Oh, my ponytail was in my head, right? I wasn't awake. Whatever reason it is, respond with encouragement as if you were talking to a friend or a 10-year-old, something along those lines. Remembering that you're not alone. As humans, we all struggle. It's part of being human. And recognizing this helps with connection and resilience. You know, we use that word resilience a lot, but these are basically tools that we can help us live stronger, more supported lives. Pause and notice, being mindful. helps you. So naming that emotion, accepting that emotion, it helps you acknowledge the pain without being overwhelmed by it. Because you're going to experience these emotions. It's about being able to regulate it and not be overwhelmed by it. And the final note would be small acts matter. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Yeah, go for the grand gesture. That sounds fantastic. But also rest, nourishment, small acts of kindness to yourself, and gentle everyday routines are extremely important. And they're very, very effective in showing yourself some compassion. So we've got just one more little piece of homework there. Your last question is, what is one small, realistic way that you can practice self-compassion this week, even if it feels like you're too busy or you're overwhelmed or it feels too heavy to do so? So one final note, and this is a final act of self-care for everyone today. I want you to thank yourself for coming here today, and not only for creating space for yourself, but for others as well, because this is a community and supporting each other is extremely, extremely important. And I want to open up the space a little bit to anyone who might want to share anything that came up today for them. It can be as simple as one word. It can be a sentence. It can be any kind of level of sharing that you'd like to share. And you can always pass that. I always, in the sense of community, I would like to open it up.
I always think of like one of my love languages is acts of service. And I think of um, what this brought up for me is, and that I naturally always think of my future self. Okay, I got a hard day tomorrow. You know, what am I going to need? Okay, well, I'm going to make my lunch tonight. I'm going to lay this out tonight. I'm going to make sure that this is done so, my future self doesn't wake up in the morning and think, "Oh my god, I got 10 million things to do." I'm like my own personal butler service.
Yeah, it sounds like an active service. Right? Anybody want to share anything on that front, or maybe what came up for them today?
And this is pretty powerful. So I'd like to invite you to pair up and look at your partner or somebody sitting next to you. This is one of the reasons that we have self-compassion, why I think that we deserve self-compassion, and is because we are all special. And again, just look at the person next to you. And if you please look at the person next to you. And I want you to know that that person sitting next to you that you're looking at had a 450 quadrillion chance of making it. That's 14 zeros. For the sperm to find the egg, for the person to be born. So this is why we deserve self-compassion. We are special in our own right because we were just flipping born. We made it. We're here. Okay. So that offers our own self-compassion. We deserve that. What we say, we deserve to be heard. We're special. And we are 450 quadrillion chance of being here right now. So the person across from you is special just for that reason. I'm special just for that reason. So, thanks.
I went through your little exercise, and what I put for number one is being busy and not having time for family or friends. The counter to that is I'm working hard to create legacy for my family to lean into and have purpose within mental health caring. Number two, what emotion can you hold and not let run you overwhelm? Number three, if you were writing yourself a letter from a place of love, what is one sentence you need to hear most? Your family and friends know you love them and are there for them. Thank you. for that. We do know that, by the way. Anybody else?
Especially for me when I come to Arizona, the one thing that I enjoy the most is hiking with my sister. And so the earth element and just getting out in nature and feeling the sunshine and working out and exercising and sweat a little bit. It's like it seriously brings me probably one of the greatest joys that I have.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I appreciate that. Go back to Shannon, our fearless leader.
Thank you, sweetheart.
I didn't introduce you. I didn't say who the heck you were. Well, this is Shannon. I mean, it's a little bit late, but this is Shannon, founder and CEO of Inside Out for Everyone, and also Changing Lives Incorporated. She's a trauma-informed therapist, and she also brings heart and vision and a ridiculous amount of passion to all the work that.
Thank you for that. Oh my goodness. Thank you all for coming today, all the way from Montana, being put on this middle of places and people don't know.